I'm Sean, and today we're going to be talking about how to strip a foil with a broken wire. So, we're starting with the foil. The wire's broken right here. Hopefully the camera will focus and you can see that. Maybe not. Alright, and we've got a couple different things to help take it apart. We've got a pair of vice grips for getting the barrel off. Got a wrench for getting the nut out so we can take the blade apart. Got a pocket knife because it's useful to have. Got a wide blade screwdriver. And a little crap tip screwdriver that we can use to scrape out stuff inside the groove. We've got a flashlight that is useful because it's got a magnetic tip here. And that's nice for dealing with tip screws. We've got some acetone for dissolving the glue that's holding the wire on. And we've got some Q-tips for the acetone, and a paper towel because acetone does not take kindly to finishings on a table. So we're going to start by taking the foil apart. So we're going to take the wrench and take the nut out so we can get the handle part taken apart. Take out the nut, take off the grip, and I think there's a washer in there, but it's stuck. I don't really care about that. And take the pad off. And we still need to take the wire off of the socket. It's in there right now. This is a 2-prong socket. And so, working with 2-prong, if I can not fumble these vice grips everywhere, going to clamp down on the nut down at the bottom with the vice grips, and then unscrew the top of the socket and get the wire out of there. So now we can undo the vice grip, and we'll thread off the socket, just kind of reinforcing it here because it doesn't really matter if the wire breaks. Try and hold it still. So we take the socket off. It helps to just sort of hand tighten this back together again because the sockets like to fall apart. And when they fall apart and you lose the pieces, they're junk. So take off the guard, and we're going to take off the spaghetti wire, which is the outer wire here, if we can, because these are always useful to have. And this one isn't coming off. There we go. So always hold on to your spaghetti wire, try and salvage it. It looks like this one, oh, it just got crimped a little bit. Sometimes they get bent up inside the guard. All right, so now we can move over to the tip. So we can take off the tip tape. We can find where it comes off. And we'll do that. One of those things that it's nice to have a knife or fingernails. I have fingernails, so it's easier to work with than a knife. You just need to peel all of this up so we can get at the barrel and the wire, and that broke, so that's fun. One of the many examples of how tedious Armory gets. It's just something you get used to after a while. And then we'll pull off the tape on the blade. You can use a knife for this. I don't generally bother, because it peels up pretty easily. And again, I have fingernails usually. Come on. See, since I'm doing this on camera, it takes like 10% longer because that's how it works. Whenever you try and show off. If the tape isn't as beat up, you can usually just peel it off the same way it got put on, but this tape is a little worse for the wear, so it's easier to just kind of rip off in whatever manner is convenient. Make a nice mess. And we'll call that close enough for now. I'll do the rest of it later. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to take off the barrel. So we've got 2 pairs of vice grips that make this pretty easy. So we're going to take one of them and adjust it to go on the blade. So it's still a little big. Down a bit. So we've got that one on the blade. And then we'll put this one. There's a couple of flat spots on the barrel. Hopefully you can see that we're going to latch this vice grips onto. I don't know how well you can see it. That makes it pretty easy to work with. And then, if I can get this on here, you twist it so it comes off, and I never remember. It's twist it in the direction it moves. Looks like it's counterclockwise. And you don't have to worry about breaking the wire because obviously it's already broken. So you just go until the barrel comes off, and there comes the point. Oh, the barrel's off. You can do that by hand for the most part. And we can take apart the barrel real quick. Can use a tip screwdriver. The nice thing about German, this is a German tip, is you don't have to take the tip screws out all the way. Since they thread into the barrel, you can just get them out most of the way and you can get the tip out. This is a shitty screwdriver. I'm holding it up. So that one's backed most of the way out, probably. It's important when you're doing this to hold down the tip, otherwise you get you get the second screw out and it'll go flying across the room, and that's a little suboptimal if you want to use the tip again. This one isn't coming out, so I'm going to deal with it later. But you can take it apart and you can pop out the contact that's inside of it, but keep all the pieces together. If you do take out one of the tip screws, you can use your magnet to help deal with that. And now we get to the tedious part. So we're going to work on stripping the wire out of this blade. For this, it requires a lot of patience and a lot of acetone. You can also do it with a blowtorch, which I wouldn't recommend for epee blades because it'll mess with the temper on the blade. But for a foil blade, it'll just burn the insulation, the super glue right out, and you can just peel up the wire, and it's pretty straightforward. You just need to have a means of holding the blade that is not in your bare hands because it'll get nice and toasty. So the easiest way to do this with acetone is you just take Q-tip, throw some acetone on there, and work it into the grooves. It's smart to work over paper towel because if you spill the acetone, it will burn a hole through the finish on your table. Or if you're an idiot and you miss with a Q-tip like I just did. And you want to let the acetone do all the work. If you try and pull up the wire, it'll break. And if the wire breaks right inside the groove, it's almost impossible to get out using acetone. At that point, you're better off going and finding a blowtorch. And you basically just try and soak the acetone in there. Give it some time. Be patient with it. Because the more acetone you can get in there, the easier it is to work with. And then you can just pull up the wire and work your way down the blade. So we'll give that a shot. And it's pulling up a little bit. And you don't want to get too aggressive because, again, if the wire breaks, it causes some problems. So this is a long, tedious process. So we're going to step away for just a minute, and I'm going to go do the rest of this. It'd be nice to do it time-lapse, but I don't really feel like editing that. So we're going to step away for a little bit, and then once I'm done getting the wire out, we'll bring it back. Okay, so we're back. I've got the wire pulled up out of the blade. There's a whole bunch of it. One of the nice things is if you can get to a point where the wire is just coming up without needing acetone, you can move along pretty quickly. The acetone makes it so you can get started when the wire doesn't want to come up, but it also makes the process a little slower. So if you get an opportunity, you can just go along and pull the wire up because the glue is relatively brittle when it's still dry. You see this a lot more with dewiring in epee, but it can happen in foil too, and that usually means it's cleaner and less to scrape out, which we'll be doing in a minute. You just have to be careful that you're not trying to do this too hard, because if you're pulling on it and it's not coming out, you have a good chance to break the wire. And if you break the wire really close down to the blade, it can be impossible to get out. And it's nice to have a needle nose vice grips or pliers of some sort that you can clamp down all the way, because you can use that to grab the wire and pull up, and that works a lot better than your fingers. I also managed to get the screws undone. One of them's a little stubborn. So we've got our tip, and we can pull the spring out with a screwdriver. Put that on our magnet here. Put the tip on the magnet too. You can see that the tip screws are still on the barrel. Hopefully if the camera will focus. And I'm doing a little Frankenstein's monster stuff, but since it's a German tip, German barrel, it'll stay in there. And then we can use our crap screwdriver to push out the contact, because you can't see light through this. I don't know how well you can see that. So we can just sort of put this upside down and push through from the blade side, and the contact comes out. A little piece of black plastic that you can also throw out, and then you can see right through the barrel. So this barrel's good to go. You can take the tip screws all the way out. You can put everything back together. You can wait 5 minutes or however long it takes you to finish stripping the blade, and you're ready to rewire it. It's all personal preference. So now we're going to go to cleaning up the blade, and if you take a look up here, hopefully you can see that there's a bunch of extra junk still in here left from the wire and the glue. So what we're going to do is we're going to scrape that out with our tiny little screwdriver. And so this is why it's nice to have a garbage screwdriver, is because you just kind of ruin it going at this, going at the groove in here. It's especially obnoxious with foil. And this is another time when the acetone comes in handy. You can scrape it out as it is, but the acetone will make things a lot easier for you as well. So you can just take some acetone on your Q-tip and throw it in there, rub it around a bit, and give it a minute, and then you should be able to scrape the super glue up. This is another process that takes a very long time and can be very tedious, and it varies depending on the blade. Unfortunately, it's kind of hard to predict which blades will be easy to work with and which ones will take more time. So we're going to cut away again, and I will see you once I've gotten this taken care of. Alright, now after a good long while of scraping with the use of some acetone, a cheap screwdriver, and a box cutter, which is also nice. If you don't care about the blade, you can really get some work done with it. And you're able to get the groove all cleaned out. Hopefully see that a little bit. All ready to get a wire in there. And I made quite a mess. It's good to do this on a table you don't care about and have a paper towel to protect it from acetone or whatever solvent you're using. But yeah, put in some elbow grease and this part can get done pretty simply. So that's all for today. Thank you.